What's going on, everybody? Today we have our Season 3 Legendary Gem tier list for you all. It's been a while since I've done one of these. Class changes come out since then, as well as a lot of these Legendary Gems I've experimented with a lot more, and of course found out a few other things within the game that has changed my opinions a decent amount. And so we're going to go in depth for the first class here in Barbarian, talk about each Legendary Gem and how it works with the Barbarian, and then we're going to go over every single class a little bit shorter, so this doesn't end up being an hour and a half video. It'll probably be like 45 minutes anyways, so it is what it is, and we'll see if you all like it. Let me know in the comments down below if you do enjoy. This is going to take a long time. Making the tier list itself took a long time, so if you do enjoy, I would really appreciate a like on the video and a sub to the channel. That being said, we're going to jump into the first class, which is Barbarian. Right, so we're going to jump in and start off with the Barbarian here. Keep in mind that the 1 and 2 star gems just have naturally lower combat rating and resonance, and this does factor into the overall tier list, meaning that if a 5-star gem has just as good as an effect as a 1-star gem, the 5-star gem is going to be rated higher, but also that is maximum potential. So if you are someone like a free-to-play or low spender that can't upgrade the gems to maximum potential, it may be better off just using the 1-star gem for now, and then maybe transitioning into a 5-star gem like months and months down the line. Depends on who you are. Just wanted to let that out. Also, I have an S, A, B, and then F tier. In my opinion, if you're not in these 3 tiers, it's unusable, or you probably just should not be investing in that gem at all. So definitely focus on these 3. The B tier gems are still things that I think are very viable, especially if you are someone that is limited on resources. Then there's the PvP only category, and these gems are particularly only really useful in PvP, in my opinion. And there's only going to be a couple of those. To be honest, there's not a whole lot, but it can come up every once in a while. All right, so we are jumping into our first gem, and that is going to be Battle Guard here. This one for the Barbarian is going to be a B tier gem. This one's going to be an interesting one because you are going to reduce that melee damage that you're going to take as long as you're close to an enemy. But the thing is that a lot of the damage that you end up taking is oftentimes range damage, and even so the melee damage that you're taking isn't necessarily an important thing to reduce. Oftentimes in most content, you oftentimes want to look for more damage, but that being said, it's still a solid gem, just not one of the best. Berserker's Eye is up next, and this one is an immediate S tier gem for pretty much every single class. You're going to get that 16% damage boost from Berserker's Eye. Yes, you're going to take a little bit more damage, but that trade-off is very, very worth it. 16% more damage does multiply off of your total damage, and so when we're talking about like mass resonance users, Berserker's Eye gets even more valuable, up to insane amounts of resonance. So very, very good gem. Then we have the Black Rose. This one to me is a PvP only gem. It's going to cause you to potentially immobilize your opponent with a small chance. Oftentimes in PvE, you're going to be fighting bosses, and that's really the hard content in PvE, and so you don't really care about immobilizing them because you can't, and so this is only a PvP gem where the immobilizing effect can be actually extremely good if you get it off on the right time or the right target. Oftentimes this is a chance gem, so keep that in mind. It's RNG based. Then we have Blessing of the Worthy, and this is going to do that big AoE attack on a chance when you get attacked yourself. This is an S tier gem for me for the Barbarian. You're going to be in the middle of opponents. You're going to get hit a lot. It's going to do a lot of damage. It's going to give you a little bit of damage reduction as well as you have it ranked up a little bit. So very, very solid gem here in Blessing of the Worthy. And later on when we get to the other classes, I'm not going to explain everything about these gems or maybe go a little bit lighter, but I do want to give you the brief overview of these gems when we're talking about them. Blessing, just a big damage, really nice, just AoE damage from the Barbarian. Then we have Bloodsoaked Jade, and for the same reasons that Berserker's Eye is good, Bloodsoaked Jade is good, and that is because it is going to be multiplying your damage, as well as giving you a 10% movement speed buff. This is going to be huge, absolutely massive for the Barbarian and any class really, but overall just an amazing gem, giving you damage boosts, giving you movement speed boosts, and just overall being a solid 5-star gem. Then we have Bloody Reach, and this one is an F tier for me. You do not want to use this gem. It's going to give you extra damage if you're farther away from your opponent. You're not going to be far away from your opponent as the Barbarian. Pretty simple, but immediate F tier. Then we have Bottled Hope. This is an S tier gem for me as well. And the reason for this is going to be the gem that you're going to want to run if you're running Sprint, if you're running Undying Rage, if you're running demoralized with the party buffs. All that type of stuff is going to activate this, give your party a damage boost or just yourself a damage boost. And let's say you're just running a solo build and you're running sprint on your solo build, which is very, very common. This is going to proc from that, so you can run sprint, get yourself a damage bonus, and this is just going to be an overall great gem for the Barbarian. Then we have the Carson's Invigoration. This one might be surprising to some of you, but I'm going to put this in the S tier category. Now, you could see an argument for an A tier, but for me, Carson's has gone up in so much value because, for those of you that don't know, when you have attack speed, it's going to increase the animations of your skills, and so therefore increasing the amount of damage you're getting out during that duration of the skill. So for channeling effects like Whirlwind, this also applies. You're also going to be running Frenzy oftentimes on the Barbarian, so extra attack speed works with that as well. Anything that you're going to do, if you're running Furious Charge and you're dashing into the enemies, guess what? That animation is sped up as well from Carson's Invigoration. All of these types of things are going to be massively, massively increased from the attack speed increase from Carson. So I think that it's absolutely one of the best gems. However, it could be argued as an A tier gem if you are a higher spender, because it could be replaced just for the fact that you can get more resonance. I'll keep it an S tier for now because I think that it has a really, really solid place over there. Next one is going to be Chain Death, and this is going to give you an extra damage on the targets that you hit as an AoE. And to be honest, this one is okay. It's going to give you a small damage increase. I'm going to put it in B tier because I could see some viability for the Barbarian in terms of whirlwinding everyone, but overall just a mediocre gem, nothing too excited about. Then we have the Chip of the Stone Flesh, and this is an interesting one because this does not work with your gathering and whirlwind and all that type of stuff. It's a little interesting because as far as we know, loss of control only applies to very, very few abilities in the game. That's what people say, oh, you're silly, it just applies to all control effects in the game on the abilities that say control. This is not true. This is just simply not true. I don't know what else to tell you. It only works for certain abilities, and unfortunately Blizzard does not tell us which ones it does work for. So we'd have to test each individual ability, every single one, based on the loss of control effects. And so for me, I'm going to put this one, I could see it in B tier, but honestly, I'm going to say F tier. And the reason for this is generally you're not going to be running a whole lot of CC. I guess you could be running potentially Hammer of the Ancients and get a stun out and in PvP, but I just don't think that you're going to be running this, or in general skills that are going to be able to proc this in PvP a whole lot. And so even in that situation, it's not going to be very solid. So maybe PvP only if that were the case. But in PvE, you're not going to be proccing this on bosses because they cannot be controlled. And so I'm going to put this in F tier, and there's a reason why it's so cheap on the market right now. I can see an argument for a B tier, so just keep that in mind for some of you if you think it's a B tier gem. I could see that one, but I'm going to put it in F tier personally. Then we have Cutthroat's Grin, and this one is a little interesting because I could see some value. You're going to have to be behind enemies to get a crit chance bonus, which could be potentially interesting. But the only problem with this one is that if you're in solo content, this is basically useless for the most part. And so, very tough, but I'm going to put it in F tier. Personally, I think that, yes, you could get some value in it in group content. Yes, you can increase your crit chance. Yes, that's going to work with some of your attack speed steroids. However, if you're talking about just replacing this with another gem, I could see this being much, much better for some of these other gems that we're going to go over in a little bit. But honestly, I mean, I guess you could say that the extra crit chance could be potentially useful. Maybe it's a B tier gem. If you're talking about PvP, this is an absolute F tier. Ooh, I think I'm going to keep it in F tier, to be honest. I think that this gem in specific is just very, very useless in PvP and things like that. Then we have the Defiant Soul here, and this one is going to be a little bit of an interesting one because this one is going to give you extra damage when we block. We're just going to do a little bit of AoE damage nearby. This one, F tier. You're not going to block a whole lot on the Barbarian, and honestly, it's not going to be that good even if you do. And compared to some of the other gems, it's just not going to be that useful. Then we have Echoing Shade coming up, and this is going to give you that clone. This is going to be very, very solid for you to spam out some clones, especially since you're primary attacking a ton with the Barbarian with your Frenzy, and your clones are going to primary attack as well, which is going to be solid for the Barbarian. And I think this is an A tier gem because of those things. Then we have Everlasting Torment, and this is, again, going to be an A tier gem for me. You're going to have a lot of AoE moves that can potentially crit and get you that attack speed bonus and a little bit of extra damage from Everlasting Torment. Keep in mind that you do have to crit, but if you are running like Wrath of the Berserker and running, I think it's Broken Soul, giving you that extra crit chance. You could get some more procs off this. That's a very specific combo, but oftentimes you're going to be running that anyways in certain circumstances. So I guess you could get value from that. Depends on what you're running, of course. Then we have Follower's Burden. This one's going to be a little bit of an interesting one. It's going to give you extra summon damage, or damage from your summons. You're not going to have a whole lot of summons as the Barbarian. This one's an F tier gem for me. Pretty simplistic there. Then we have Follower's Burden. This is our Freedom and Devotion, rather, not Follower's Burden a second time. It's going to increase your duration of your summons. Once again, this is going to be an F tier gem for me. Yes, you can increase your Hammer of the Ancient summon, things like that. It's just not good enough. I guess if you're running it with Echoing Shade, you could be a B tier gem. Maybe both these could be jumped up to a B tier gem if you're running Echoing Shade. I just don't think that that's worth it even then. I think that in general, you're just going to want a different gem instead of these two. Then we have Howler's Call, and this one's going to be a B tier gem. I could see an A tier gem. Really, in PvE content, it's going to give you a nice burst of damage. But really in PvP, it's going to be really excellent. And I could see this for an argument for PvP only, even just because of how powerful the wolf effect actually is. So overall, a decently solid gem, but not good enough for an A tier in my opinion, or an S tier. Then we have the Hunger, and this one's going to be a B tier gem as well. Once again, Hunger is not going to heal for you a ton for you, as well as having a 20-second cooldown. So it's just not doing a lot, but I could see some value for it here. It's just unfortunate that it's this really, really poor. So, you know, it just doesn't do a lot over the course of time. It's not healing a lot and has a long cooldown. So B tier gem, but can be useful in some circumstances. Then we have Lightning Core, and to me, this is going to be an A tier gem. It's going to have a short cooldown. It's going to have that 20-second cooldown for an impactful dealing of damage, as well as increasing the damage that you deal for a short period when this does activate. Overall, pretty solid. It has a similar cooldown, I guess, to the Hunger here, but the major difference between this is that the damage that you're getting is actually much, much more viable compared to the healing that you're getting from Hunger. It also just increases your damage for a short period of time afterwards. So you can oftentimes get the Lightning Core proc and then dump everything, and then you're just getting a strict 12% damage boost if you have a maxed out Lightning Core. So very, very good in that situation. Then we have Mocking Laughter, and this is going to be an immediate F tier gem for every single class. You don't care about taunting non-elite monsters. It's just not useful. Then we have Nightmare Wreath, and this is going to have a chance to fear people when you defeat an enemy. And honestly, this one's actually going to be a PvP only one for me, because when you defeat enemies, getting a fear off could be very, very viable. I guess you could say that this could be potentially good in challenge rifts. The only problem is that oftentimes if you're fearing enemies, yes, you're going to get some value there, but you want to keep them grouped together anyway. So in my opinion, from what I've seen, it's been more of a detriment than anything else. Then we have Pain of Subjugation, and this one's going to be a B tier gem. The only problem is that you're not going to have a lot of loss of control in order to get that damage amp in your own kit. So you do want to make sure that you are running with someone else. So maybe this is even an F tier gem or a PvP only gem. However, you do have a few moves that can proc this, and if you are running that Hammer of the Ancients, then you will get some procs of it from there. Talking about this, I could see this being an F tier gem. I'm going to put it in B tier though, because the damage amp is really, really nice. Then we have Phoenix Ashes. And so this one's a little bit of an interesting one, because initially I thought it was a PvP only gem, but the problem is that you get such a massively reduced shield that oftentimes it just doesn't really work all that often. What's interesting about it is that it really works well with Barbarian's skill here. So I can see this being viable. To me, this is a B tier gem. I think it actually has more use in challenge rifts and just overall keeping you alive in PvE than in PvP. So I could see it there. I just don't really like it all that much. Then you have Power Command, another B tier gem. You can get some value from both modes. Just keep in mind that when you're primary attacking, you want to primary attack during that skill amp or damage amp for primary attacks. And then when you're using skills, you want to dump them all when you have that skill damage amplification. Then we have the Unity Crystal. This one's just not that good overall. You're going to get some extra damage reduction with party members nearby. To me, this is a PvP only gem. I don't think that the damage reduction is overall going to be very, very good enough in other game modes, but keep in mind that it's also reduced in PvP. So I think that the damage reduction is really, really valuable in PvP game modes. And so I can even see Battle Guard in the PvP only as well. So I'm going to keep it there. Not very good overall, pretty mediocre damage reduction. And it only applies to people in a relatively small radius. Then you have Sleeping Bile. This one's an S tier gem. You're just gonna get so much damage from this. It's nothing really else about it. You're just gonna get a lot of damage over time from this, especially in challenge rifts when you're, whirlwinding, and then you're gonna get procs, and then it's gonna carry over for the rest of the game. So definitely very, very solid gem, and just gives you a lot of damage. Slow is also nothing to kind of ignore. When you are poisoning people, you are going to slow them, which is very, very, very good. Then we have Solid's Weakening, and this one to me is a B tier gem. Yes, it does amplify your damage when you kill an elite monster. Only problem is that you're not always killing elite monsters, and it's very, 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 don't run it in PvP, essentially. It can be very, very good for Elder Rifts specifically, and sometimes open world farming, but overall, niche use. Very, very good if you're able to get that niche use, but that is what it is. Trickshot Gem, this one's an A tier gem for me. It's going to reduce your channeling consumption when you're running Whirlwind. Very, very good there. I think that's really the only thing that needs to be said about this gem. You're going to Whirlwind a lot. It's going to reduce the amount of energy that you're consuming, so you're going to be able to Whirlwind more. It's pretty simple. And then we have Unity Crystal again here. So this is a little bit interesting. I actually messed up this one. This is not Unity Crystal. So right here, this is actually Respite Stone. I apologize. And this one is going to decrease all damage you take when you are below on life. Once again, I actually think that this is a B tier gem, but it's damage reduction. But the reason why I'm going to put it in B tier is because you have that Wrath or Undying Rage. This one is Unity Crystal. This one's going to give you that damage reduction over a party. This is Respite Stone. So I actually got these two mixed up. But this one is going to give you that damage reduction when you're low on life, which can be viable when you're running Undying Rage. I just saw that, and I saw the other one, and I finally remembered that these two are the two different ones rather than Unity Crystal. This one is going to be Zodstone, and to me, this one is an F tier gem. It's going to require you to charge up your ultimate first off, and then you increase the duration of your ultimate by 50%. Yes, the ultimate can be impactful if you happen to have Zodstone, but the only problem is that you have to charge it up in the first place, which is very difficult to do in a lot of circumstances, so just keep that in mind. Then we have Swenson's Haunting. This one's going to be a B tier gem for me. It's not super impactful, but when you're open world farming, dungeon farming, things like that, getting that extra damage when you kill something can speed up the process and give you a little bit of value there. So to me, it's a B tier gem, but overall not great. And the last one here for us is Fervent Fang. Normally I leave this off the list because you can only get it from the battle pass, but we've acquired enough, and honestly people want to rate it, so I'm going to go ahead and rate it here as an A tier. I think Fervent Fang is actually quite good if you're able to run it and get some extra damage amp on a single target, hitting that same target over and over again. Actually does a lot of work, so keep that in mind when you're fighting bosses. It's actually very, very good. And there's going to be the Barbarian for overall. I'm going to go ahead and swap over to another class. I'm also going to leave in the timestamp that this is where we went over most of the gems. I'm going to make it much shorter for the rest of the classes, and let's jump into the next class, which is the Crusader. All right, so we are jumping into the Crusader now, and if you've not checked out the earlier part of this video and you skipped to this part, I went over all the gems a little bit more in depth when talking about the Barbarian, and so we're going to go specifically into the Crusader and how these gems work with the Crusader skills. So I'm not going to give you a full description of these gems in its entirety. If you want to check that out, check the earlier part of this video. Otherwise, it's going to be like an hour and a half long. So we have the first one up, which is Battle Guard. This one to me is a B tier gem for the same reasons that the Barbarian was. It's going to reduce your damage and your melee class. Berserker Size, an S tier gem. To me, it's just going to increase your damage all over the board with the Crusader, and the Crusader actually does insane damage with the banner. Then we have the Black Rose. This one's going to be in PvP only. The Immobilize effect is really, really nice in certain circumstances. Blessing of the Worthy is going to be an S tier gem. Crusader is going to get in the fray, get a lot of procs from Blessing of the Worthy, and do a lot of damage with that as well. Bloodsoaked Jade is going to give you an S tier gem as well. Movement speed is insane on the Crusader, as well as just an extra damage amp is always, always good. Bloody Reach is an F tier gem. Pretty much the same layout as the Barbarians so far. Bloody Reach is not good. You're going to be in melee range. You're not going to get any effects from it. Bottled Hope is an S tier gem. It works with your Conjuration of Light. It works with your banner. And so it's very, very good. It also works with your horse. So that's a little interesting fact. Then we have Carson's Invigoration, and this one is an A tier gem for me. It doesn't really increase overall any of your skill animations or anything like that a crazy amount, because you're not running a lot of skills that have a lot of animation. So the attack speed is nice on your horse, but overall not quite as good as the Barbarian in general because of the skills that you're generally using. Then we have the Chained Death. This one is going to be a B tier gem once again. You are AoEing quite a bit with the Spinning Shield, Consecration, things like that, so can be solid. Then we have Chip of the Stone Flesh. This is a B tier gem. Once again, we do not know which loss of control effects actually work. You can't just go into the menu and see control and say, hey, that works. Certain skills do work for the Crusader, and it does more so than the Barbarian. So I'm going to see this as a B tier gem. I can see it as an A tier gem even for the Crusader. It's actually quite solid. Then we have Cutthroat's Grin. This one's an F tier gem for me. For the Satyr, extra crit chance doesn't really work a whole lot, or really solid because you're running Banner oftentimes. Yes, it'll increase your damage by a percentage amount, but you already have so many damage amps with the crit damage that you're going to cap out eventually. So this isn't very good. Then we have this one is going to be Defiant Soul. This one's actually an B tier gem for the Crusader because you have skills that can increase your block chance, which will increase the proc chance of this gem. Then we have Echoing Shade. This one is, I think, a B tier gem for the Crusader. Your primary attacks aren't crazy good, and this is the one class where I think the Echoing Shade can be okay, but not quite as good as some other classes out there. Everlasting Torment's an A tier gem for me. This one's going to give you a little bit of extra damage overall and a little bit of extra attack speed, which is really solid. And you can get constant procs from it with Banner. So this one could even jump to an S tier. I'm going to keep it an A tier because the effect isn't crazy good. Follower's Burden, F tier gem. You only have one summon. You oftentimes don't run it. You're not even going to run Echoing Shade all that often. Not good. Same reason for Freedom of Devotion. Not good. Howler's Call, I think it's an A tier gem. The reason why I'm going to put it in A tier is because you're oftentimes on your horse, which means you can proc it while moving towards an enemy, which is very good in PvP scenarios. And overall, you can have it crit with your Banner, so it's going to do massive damage. Overall, an A tier gem for me. Hunger, I would never use this gem on the Crusader. I could see some residual value, but to me, it's an F tier gem. You're just never going to use this, in my opinion. Yes, you get some residual value in PvE by killing off an enemy, getting some extra heals. Healing's so low and the cooldown is decently long, so just not a whole lot of value there. Lightning Core, A tier gem for me. Cooldown is the same as the Hunger, but the value from increasing your damage, and then you can lay down your Banner, which will increase your damage insane amounts, as well as just the Lightning Core proc itself. Very good. Mocking Laughter, F tier gem. You're not going to taunt enemies. Nightmare Wreath, again, it's going to be a PvP only gem for me. It's going to give you that chance to fear. I really don't want to separate enemies in challenge rifts, and overall, when you're laying down your spinning shields and things like that with the Crusader. So I don't really want people to be feared unless it's PvP scenario. Then we have Pain of Subjugation. This one's going to be an B tier, potentially an A tier gem, because the damage amp when you do a loss of control effect is massive, but you do need a loss of control effect. I'm going to put it in B tier, but I could see it in A tier. Then Phoenix Ashes, this one is going to be a B tier gem once again. In PvP, because you don't have that Barbarian skill where you have the double death immunity with Phoenix Ashes and Undying Rage, this oftentimes just kills you. If you're in the situation where it would proc, you probably would have died even if it does proc, because the shield is so low. Really, in PvE scenarios, the only time I find use out of this one. Power and Command, a B tier gem. You can get some value from both modes, and overall, you can get some very good damage amp. Honestly, it could even be A tier here because you can primary attack and then drop your skills, and then keep on primary attacking. So I actually could see it as an A tier. I'm going to put it in the A tier here. Then we have Respite Stone. Once again, the damage reduction here for you to be lower on life. To me, this is going to be a B tier gem. Honestly, it could even be an F tier gem because you don't really want to be lower on life, and you oftentimes don't get low on life all that often with Crusader. And even if you're not getting low on life because of your block chance and all that stuff, you're not going to get value out of this, and it's only damage reduction. So overall, I'm convincing myself here to get it out of the B tier and put it in the F tier. But damage reduction in general is just not that good. Seeping Bile, S tier gem for me. Really like this gem on every class. Just massive damage, massive slows. Sleed's Weakening, going to be a B tier gem here. Again, you're not going to get a lot of procs of this outside of Elder Rifts. Trickshot gem, F tier. You're not going to have a lot of channeled skills as the Crusader, and you almost never use them. Then we have Unity Crystal. This one's going to be PvP only. You are going to stick around your fellow party members in the PvP scenarios because you want to give them banners, you want to give them buffs, and overall, the damage reduction does help out a little bit in PvP. Zodstone, F tier. You don't really care about Ultimate as the Crusader. Then we have Zwenson's Haunting. It's going to be a B tier gem for me. It's going to speed up your farm and can oftentimes get some value out there. Then we have Fervent Fang. This one's going to be an A tier. Damage amp on single target. Percentage damage amps are very good. So that was about half the time as the Barbarian, and we're going to jump over to the Demon Hunter now and go over them. All right, now moving on to the Demon Hunter. And once again, I'll mention this. If you've skipped this part, be sure to check out the Barbarian for a more in-depth overview of each gem if you do not know what they do. So first one, we have Battle Guard. This one's going to be an immediate F tier for Demon Hunter. It's a melee reduction damage within 3 yards. You're oftentimes not in melee range. In PvP, you could see people jumping on top of you, but generally you want to kite them out to get value from Bloody Reach, and so you're not in distance to get that melee damage reduction. Berserker's Eye, massive damage increase for the Demon Hunter. Need I say more? Black Rose here, PvP only. Once again, Immobilize is exceptionally good in that scenario. Blessing of the Worthy. So this one is a little interesting. The range on it is actually really, really large, and you can get value from Bloody Reach while also having this proc. I don't think it's quite S tier, but I also don't think it's, pretty mediocre. I think it's actually quite solid. And the reason for this is that it does a lot of damage. Doesn't matter what class you are, you all have similar life pools. And so the damage is still there. It's just that it doesn't hit as many people. In PvP, you're going to get people to proc it very often, and you're going to be able to do big damage from it. As well as in PvE content, running through enemies, and just getting hit by ranged attacks oftentimes is what happens when I'm playing the Demon Hunter. You're going to get procs out of this. It's not as valuable, and I can see an argument for B tier. Me personally, I'm going to put it in an A tier. Bloodsoaked Jade, S tier, movement speed, damage. Nothing really else to say about that one. It's just massive value. Bloody Reach, an S tier gem. Same value as Berserker's Eye in terms of damage multiplication, but it's also actually more damage multiplication than Berserker's Eye itself. So this one's an absolutely massive, massive gem. Bottled Hope, an A tier gem. You can get some value from this if you're running Smokescreen or Vengeance, and it can give you that damage amp, but you don't get to proc it as often, and it doesn't get to share with your party members, so an A tier gem for me. Carson's S tier, primary attack speed, really good for Demon Hunter. It's going to speed up your animations as well, and give you constant value for those primary attacks, which you're able to do all the time. Chain Death, this one is a B tier, maybe even F tier gem. Honestly, I'm going to put it as B tier because you do get to hit a lot of enemies with your hunger and primary attacks and then multi-shot and things like that. It's going to give you a little bit of a damage amp there. Ship of the Stoneflesh, this is an F tier gem. You're not going to be able to get a lot of use out of this anyways in PvE. And on top of that, you're not running CC in PvE. And then in PvP, you really don't really have anything to proc it except for Wolves, I believe. I think that does proc it. But again, even then, it's not a huge amount of value. Cutthroat's Grin, I could see this being in a B tier gem. The crit chance is actually really solid, and because of your range, they will often target the melee classes in PvE, so you can get some value by going behind enemies. Defiant Soul, F tier, block chance, not going to block a lot, not going to do a lot of damage because it's nearby enemies. Echoing Shade, S tier gem for me. This is going to use your primary attacks, you can summon clones, it's going to do a lot more damage, and you are a Demon Hunter, so this is going to do a ton of damage. Everlasting Torment, this is going to be a S tier gem for me as well. This, not only are you going to get the damage, but you're also going to get the attack speed, and attack speed's so good on Demon Hunters, and that's why I'm going to put it in S tier, just because of that. Follower's Burden, this one's going to be an F tier gem. You could argue for a B tier because you have the sentries and things like that and the Echoing Shade, but I think it's still an F tier. I'd rather have some of these other gems up here. And the same thing with Freedom and Devotion. Howler's Call, A tier. You can pre-fire it and get some damage there. You can also move and shoot, which can shoot out the wolf, especially good in PvP, but really, really good in PvE as well for that burst damage. Hunger, F tier. Once again, you don't take a lot of damage to the Demon Hunter, and if you are taking damage, it's going to be a lot of damage, so this heal is not going to do a whole lot. Overall, pretty mediocre gem. Lightning Court, A tier. Damage is really nice. It's going to give you the damage amp after you proc it. Overall, very solid. F tier for Mocking Laughter. Taunt is useless. Nightmare Wreath. This is actually going to be a B tier gem for me here because you oftentimes actually do kind of want the people to be feared away from you because you are going to be attacking and your AoEs are so large that's going to hit everyone anyways, even if they separate. And just getting people to retreat from you if you happen to get some value out of this and kill someone can be good in challenge rifts. Pain of Subjugation, F tier gem. You can't really have any way to proc it in solo PvE content, so it's going to be an F tier for me. Phoenix Ashes, B tier. I could see some value from this in PvP as well as PvE, and honestly, I might even just put it in the PvP only section because if you're proccing this, you're oftentimes at range with people anyways, and so you can escape with a small shield, and in your PvE content, you oftentimes will not take a lot of damage if you are playing at maximum potential, which is what I'm rating these at. I'm not talking about like if you're ship farming or whatever like that, because you don't really need to build for that type of thing because it's just standing in place and attacking a lot. So There you go. Next up is Power and Command. This is an S tier gem because you can get maximum value from both modes. You can primary attack all the time, and then you can dump all your abilities during the command mode. I believe command is the skill damage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Power and Command is so good for Demon Hunter because of the damage amp, and you really care about those damage amps. Respite Stone, F tier gem. You don't really care about damage reduction by being the life because you're not going to take a lot of damage. The damage reduction is not going to help you a whole lot. Seeping Bile. We have a lot of S tier gems for the Demon Hunter, but Seeping Bile, again, all the damaging ones are just so good. The slow is really nice. The damage over time is really nice. Sleed's Weakening, B tier. Not a lot of chances to proc this, and the damage amp is not that great in terms of how many places you can use it. Trickshot Gem, F tier. You're not really going to use Strafe a whole lot, the channeling skills for the Demon Hunter, so not useful there. Unity Stone, F tier for me. Again, damage reduction on a party. You're not going to be near those people a whole lot because you are ranged and you don't care about damage reduction a whole lot. Zod Stone, F tier. Ultimate, this ultimate one is just not that good. You have to charge your ultimate is the problem, and you're not going to have your ultimate all that often for it to be useful. Swenson's Haunting, a B tier. Once again, can be used in certain open world and dungeon content when you kill an enemy. Fervent Fang, S tier. The damage amp on this gem is really good, and when you're talking about Demon Hunter, you are doing single target damage a lot, so this gem is very good overall. Demon Hunter is the first one that's changed quite a bit from the other two, and so if you want to check out those, be sure to go back into the video. We're going to hop on over to Monk next. On to the Monk, and if you have not or do not know what these gems do, be sure to check out the Barbarian for a more in-depth overview of each gem. First one up is Battle Guard for the Monk. This one's going to be an B tier gem. I think the damage reduction is going to be not good enough in a lot of pieces of content. You really want to focus on damage in every one of your classes, although you can get some value out of this by sticking on your targets. It isn't just good enough, in my opinion, for it to be very valuable. Berserker's Eye, S tier, damage amp, nothing more to say. PvP only for Black Rose. The immobilize effect is very good in those scenarios. Blessing of the Worthy, S tier. It's a melee class. You're going to get a ton of value from being in the middle of opponents, getting a big AoE, just hitting for a lot of damage. Bloodsoaked Jade, movement speed, damage amp. Nothing more to say about that gem. Again, it's just so good to get those damage amps and movement speed increases. Bloody Reach, F tier. You're going to be on your opponent a lot. Not going to get a lot of value from this. It's just simple as that. Blotted Hope, A tier, potential S tier. Actually, I'm going to put an S tier because of two reasons: Shield of Zen and Inner Sank. Shield of Zen you use a lot in PvP as well as PvE content if you want to just continuously get that movement speed increase if you run that build to give you a little bit of faster open world farming and just pure mobility. Carson's, I'm going to put it as an A tier gem, and the reason for this is that, again, it's going to increase your animation speed of like Mystic Strike, Flying Dragon, if you're running Wave of Light, those types of things. Just giving you extra attack speed as well for your primary attack is very valuable. Next up, the Chain Death. I want to put this in F tier. I don't feel like you have enough AoE in a lot of your abilities to really warrant this. I guess you could say Seven-Sided Strike is an AoE. You could say like Wave of Light is an AoE. You could say Mystic Strike is technically an AoE if you happen to hit a couple of people. I just don't think that because your basic attack is going to guarantee you to hit only one target and you're not going to constantly use AoE moves, I don't think it's good enough to be in B tier. Shape of the Stoneflesh, I'm going to put this in B tier as well. There are certain abilities that do proc this, and I think that it is actually decently valuable, but once again, loss of control is a little confusing because not every control move in the game actually works with it. Cutthroat's Grin, F tier. You're not going to be behind your opponent all that often when you're talking about PvP, and so if you're really working in PvE as well, you're oftentimes a melee class, and so unless you have another melee class to take the aggro from you or someone else to take the aggro, it's going to be hard to get value from this. Defiant Soul, F tier. You're not going to block a whole lot. Pretty self-explanatory there. Echoing Shade, I'm actually going to put this in A tier. I think that the clones are actually quite valuable. You can actually stack with your Mystic allies and have several clones out. Very nice combination there. And because of that, I think that some of these summoning gems can be potentially really good. Everlasting Torment, A tier. Just a little bit of extra damage. Attack speed's always good. These two, I'm going to put in B tier. Follower's Burden and Freedom of Devotion. It's Devotion. It's going to give you extra damage from summons and increase your summon duration. If you're running Echoing Shade, which I think is a good gem to run, as well as Mystic Allies, these two can actually be decent, but not amazing, so just keep that in mind. But the extra damage and the extra summon duration can be good. Howler's Call, B tier. You can't necessarily pre-fire it to give you that extra chance to stun someone when you're entering the PvP, but the damage is nice in PvE content. Hunger, B tier, can get some residual heals here and there, but the cooldown's long, the heal's not a lot, so overall, kind of mediocre. Lightning Core, A tier. I think that's just the extra damage, and the damage amp is just super, super good if you're able to play around it, which I think is very, very viable. Mocking Laughter, F tier. You don't care about taunting enemies a whole lot. F tier for Nightmare Wreath. Actually, PvP only for Nightmare Wreath, in my opinion. I could see it being decent in Challenge Rift in some scenarios. The only problem is that you oftentimes are using iframes to kind of avoid a lot of your damage as the monk, and you're jumping in and out, maybe dropping a Firestorm combo or a Fire Tornado combo. And so you don't really care about fearing enemies, and you kind of want to keep them grouped together anyways. Pain of Subjugation. I'm going to put this in F tier. I don't think it's good enough to run in most scenarios. I'm going to change my mind again. B tier for me. The damage amp is really, really good if you're able to get it off. And so if you're running with people that happen to have a lot more CC than you do, I could see this being very, very good in certain circumstances. Phoenix Ashes, this one's going to be a B tier gem, and the reason for this, actually I'm going to put it in A tier for me, and the reason for this is that you have so many iframes that when you do happen to be able to proc this on your residual damage, you can oftentimes teleport away or get away with Shield of Zen and things like that. So actually I think this is very, very good, and it also, of course, is good in Challenge Rifts always. Power and Command, it's going to be a B tier gem for me. You can't get maximum value. I could see this being an A tier gem, honestly, just because the damage amp is so high when you do activate it. So I guess I can keep it in A tier, but overall, you're not going to get maximum value from it, so just keep that in mind. Respite Stone, B tier. Life lower, more damage reduction. It can be good in combination with Shield of Zen and things like that when you are running those shields, and you get some damage reduction when you are in those shields, which means your shields last longer and things like that. So very, very solid in some circumstances. But again, damage reduction is not crazy, crazy valuable. Seeping Bile, I think that this is an S tier gem overall, but I think that the Monk is probably one of those classes that can use it the least. And so I still think it's good enough to put an S tier, but I could see it being as an A tier, to be honest. Slid's Weakening, B tier gem. Elites, not going to kill them a lot, so not going to get value from this. Once again, Trickshot gem, I'm going to put this in F tier. You don't have a lot of channeling skills, and the ones that you do run, you don't really care about. So you don't oftentimes run those skills in general with the legendary item modification. And in PvE, you don't really care about the minor damage reduction that you're getting oftentimes. And so I'm going to put this in F tier personally. Zodstone, F tier. Again, channeled ultimates are hard to get, so F tier for me. Swenson's, B tier. Can do some decent stuff in PvE for open world farming and dungeon things like that, but overall just kind of mediocre. Fervent Fang, A tier. Can honestly even be S tier. I'm actually going to put it in S tier because I think the damage reduction is so good against your dungeon bosses and against your challenge rifts, things like that, where you're just constantly hammering out on one target. That's where it matters, and that's where the damage reduction or damage amp is where you're going to get it. So overall, very, very good for the Monk. This one, it's kind of few and far between in terms of S and A tier gems compared to some other classes out there. But overall, there's your list for Monk. Let's jump into the Necromancer next. And we have Battle Guard first up. This was an F tier gem. Once again, you're not going to get a whole lot of damage reduction if you're talking about your summons and things like that. It's just overall kind of mediocre. Melee damage decrease is just not that good, especially when you're a ranged class. It's just not that good. Berserker's Eye, S tier gem. Super, super solid on every single class. Damage amp is always, always good. And the more residents you have, the more valuable it is. Black Rose, Immobilize, very good for PvP, but that's it. Blessing of the Worthy. In my opinion, this is going to be a B tier gem. So your summons can take a lot of your damage for you, and so you're not going to get a whole lot of procs from this, but if it does proc, it does a lot of damage. And it has a really large radius. So yes, you're not going to get as many procs as perhaps the Demon Hunter, even though the Demon Hunter is generally going to be at range more than you are. But because your summons block hits, the Blessing is going to be a B tier gem for me. Bloodsoak Jade, S tier, immediate S tier. It's just so good. Movement speed and damage amp. Bloody Reach, I'm going to put this as an A tier gem. It's going to be very, very good for you to get that damage amp. Again, percentage damage multiplications are so good, especially if you have high resonance. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about these gems. Bottled Hope, S tier gem for me. Bone Armor is going to proc it exceptionally often, so good there. There's a few other skills that can proc it as well, but this one in particular is just going to be super nice for you. Carson's, to me, it's going to be an A tier gem. Once again, primary attack speed, you're going to use that decently often, but it also increases your animations for certain skills. So S tier gem or A tier gem for Carson's. Chain Death, I'm going to put this as a B tier gem. Some AoE moves that you do have, you can get some extra damage from it and proc it decently often. Chip of the Stone Flesh, B tier, maybe even A tier, because this is one of those characters that can use something like Wraith Form with the Fear, and that will proc it, and that is something that you use in PvP oftentimes. So I could see this being an A tier gem even, and I'm going to go ahead and gander that I'm going to put this at A tier, the highest probably that I'll put for any class for Chip of the Stone Flesh, but can be probably really solid for the Necro here. Cutthroat's Grin, this is going to be an A tier gem for me. And the reason for this is that oftentimes your summons will tank for you, so you can get behind enemies, which can be very, very good. And I believe that this might actually work with your summons, although I'm not 100% sure on that one. But just the general logic of it is that you have so many different targets, whether it's your summons being behind them or you being behind them, one of your summons will tank, which can get you value from Cutthroat's Grin. Defiant Soul, F tier, you're not going to block a lot. Echoing Shade, A tier. This one's going to be very solid. Your clones I've valued a little bit more than recent just because of how much damage they actually end up doing. And so I really, really like this gem on a lot of classes, especially those ranged ones that can get you some value no matter what because you are ranged. Everlasting Torment. I'm going to put this as an S tier gem because of the extra attack speed as well as the extra damage that you're able to do. I've heard that there's some issues with Seeping Bile as well as Everlasting Torment. Either one works, the other one doesn't. I'm not exactly sure on which one does work and which one doesn't work with your summons, but overall, very, very solid. I've heard that also that one of these can proc the other one. So whichever one doesn't work with your summons, if you happen to have like Everlasting Torment and that works, I believe, then that could proc Seeping Bile or something like that. It's a little confusing because the summons are a little bit weird in that situation. Follower's Burden and Freedom of Devotion, I think these are A tier gems. I actually don't think they're S tier straight up because they are 1 and 2 star gems. So S tier, personally, and the extra damage amp that you can get is very, very good. Honestly, maybe Follower's Burden is an S tier gem. I'm going to put it in S tier. Honestly, I think it's good enough to be an S tier. Since a lot of situations you are running summons, the extra summon duration I think is a little bit lower because this works with your summons. Lots of damage amp, super, super good. Howler's Call, B tier. You can't pre-fire it, but you can get some value out of the wolf that spawns. Hunger, I'm going to put it actually in F tier for the Necro because the reason for this is your summons tank a lot of your damage and you are very, very tanky in PvP scenarios. So overall, just not a great gem to get you some very, very minor healing overall. And I prefer it just to be an F tier. Lightning Core, I'm going to put this one in B tier. It's not quite as good as some other gems up here. I think that it takes up a slot for potentially some summon gems, which are very much more valuable in a lot of situations than the Lightning Core, even though that just does give a damage amp for a couple seconds after the fact that you use this. So B tier for me, but I could see it in A tier. Mocking Laughter, F tier. Taunt doesn't matter. Nightmare Wreath, I'm going to put this in B tier, because this can proc and it can save your summons lives sometimes, which can be very, very good. And overall, just the Fear is really, really nice if you're talking about challenge rifts and things like that. Next one up, Pain of Subjugation. To me, this is going to be a B tier gem. Damage amp is really, really nice, especially since that is going to give you a little bit of extra damage when they are loss of control. So overall, decent. Phoenix Ashes, this one's going to be a maybe B tier, honestly, maybe even PvP only. Because you do want to survive as much as you possibly can, and this can help you survive a little bit longer. But overall, you have enough survivability in PvE content, whereas in PvP, you have pure CC generally, and the extra shield can be very, very annoying. Power and Command, I'm going to put this one in B tier. I could see this being okay, maybe even A tier, just for the damage amp. Again, it's just so good, but you can't get full value from it. And I think the only person that can have Power and Command in S tier is Demon Hunter because of the constant primary attacks. Respite Stone, F tier. I don't really care about the damage reduction on lower life. Sleeping Bile, S tier. More damage, more slows. Very, very good. Sled's Weakening, B tier. Elite monsters don't come off around all that often, so not really a consistent use, but good when it comes up. Trickshot Gem, this one's going to be an F tier. You don't really have a lot of channels, and it doesn't really matter when you don't have channels. Unity Stone, F tier. Honestly, actually B tier, because this can work with potentially your party members, as well as I believe your summons. So this can work with them, which can be interesting, but not oftentimes exceptionally useful. Zodstone, F tier. Again, just not good enough because you need to channel your ultimate. Twin Intense Haunting, B tier. This one is going to be very, very solid for you to proc and get you some extra damage out there. Fervent Fang, S tier. It's going to work so well when you're amping your summon damage up. It's just so good to increase those summons damage when they're targeting that single target like a boss. It's just going to do so much massive damage for you. And just overall, just really good when you have damage multiplications. So we're going to put that one in S tier. There's the Necro. We have one last class, and that's going to be the Wizard. Let's get into the last class here. Last class up is going to be the Wizard, and this is a class that I've been really enjoying. If you do not know what these legendary gems do, be sure to check out the beginning of the video when I go over the Barbarian and go over a little bit more in depth into these gems. Battle Guard, F tier, melee damage reduction at a certain distance, which is really close to you. You're going to be at very far range. Next up is Black Rose. This is a PvP only. Immobilize is very good in those situations. Berserker's Eye, damage amplification, super good when we're talking about percentage damage multipliers. Blessing of the Worthy, this one is an A tier, or sorry, this is actually messed up. This is supposed to be A tier, and this is supposed to be B tier here. But this is a B tier gem, rather, for Blessing of the Worthy. You're going to be very far away from your opponents, but you can get some value if you run like teleport and teleport onto people, which you do quite often. Bloodsoaked Jade, S tier, damage percentage multiplier, as well as movement speed. Bloody Reach, S tier, damage percentage multiplier. Again, this is a very common theme with these S tier gems. Very good to percentage damage multiply your damage. Bottle of Hope, A tier. And the reason for this is you have a few of them, like the Ray of Frost and the Enervator with the Siphon as well. Those types of things that give you movement speed or shields. It's going to proc Bottle of Hope. Even Teleport with the Clone procs Bottle of Hope. So honestly, it could even be S tier, but I like it at A tier because you do get value from it, but it's hard to time this skill correctly with the Bottle of Hope proc. Carson's, A tier, maybe even S tier. And the reason for this is it actually works with your channels. And honestly, I'm going to put it in S tier because it increases the damage you deal during your channel durations because it increases the speed at which your channels go off. It's very good because attack speed increases your skills. So very good. You also primary attack a lot with your Magic Missile or Electrocute. So overall, just amazing. Chain Death, B tier. You're going to hit a lot of targets, so overall solid. Chip of the Stoneflesh, F tier. It doesn't work with Black Hole, which is one of your main CC moves, so overall pretty mediocre. It does work with freezing, but you don't really freeze a crazy amount oftentimes in PvE content. You do in PvP, but you don't really get the full value of that in PvP overall. Cutthroat's Grin, I could see this being a B tier or even an A tier gem because you're all ranged. And sometimes you can use your summons or your clones to take aggro. You can get behind people. So I could see A tier, but nothing higher than that. But I'm putting in B tier for me personally. Defiant Soul, F tier. You're not going to block a lot. Echoing Shade, A tier. Maybe even S tier. I'm going to put in A tier though because you do have a ranged ability and it's going to give you a little bit of extra damage. Very good in those scenarios. Everlasting Torment. With all the crits that you're going to get and the attack speed amplification, it's going to give you a very nice damage boost for your channels, as well as just giving you overall just more damage. Follower's Burden, I'm going to put this in F tier, as well as Freedom of Devotion. Again, it can work with your Echoing Shade and like things like that, but overall just not good enough in my opinion. Howler's Call, A tier. You can pre-fire this while you're moving forward as a ranged class, which is really solid. So I really do like that. And you don't have to get in people's faces, so Howler's Call is very solid to give you that extra damage and the potential stun. Hunger, this is going to be an F tier gem for me. You're not going to get low enough oftentimes to where low periodically to where the hunger heal is useful. So overall, just an F tier gem. Lightning Core, A tier. I really like the damage amp as well as just overall more damage with Lightning Core. Very good. Mocking Laughter, F tier. Who cares about the taunt? Nightmare Wreath. I want to put this in maybe PvP only. I don't really like enemies separating when we're talking about PvE content, and you can get some value from this when you kill off an enemy. Pain of Subjugation, F tier. Phoenix Ashes, PvP only. It can be potentially useful in those situations. Honestly, actually, I take this back because I could see this being a B tier gem. In certain scenarios like challenge rifts, you can get some value out of this, and in PvP, it can be good. Power and Command, I'm gonna put this in B tier. Maybe A tier because the skill damage is actually really good for it, but you can't really use both at the same time because your channels prevent you from using your basic attacks oftentimes, and you are running channels oftentimes. Respite Stone, F tier, and Unity Crystal is going to go there as well. I really dislike these two gems for damage reduction for wizards, and you're not going to be near your party members all that often. Seeping Bile, S tier. Absolute S tier, more damage, can proc very, very easily. Sled's Weakening, B tier, can only proc off elite monsters, so few and far between. Trickshot Gem, A tier, maybe S tier, but I'm gonna put it in A tier. Decreases the channeling consumption, which is really, really useful. The problem is that it's a 1-star gem. If this was like a 2-star gem or even a 5-star gem, it could be very, very good and honestly immediate S tier for the wizard. Zodstone, ultimate charging, just terrible. Swenson's Haunting, B tier, can be very, very good in certain circumstances like dungeon farming and open world farming. Fervent Fang, to me, this is an A tier gem. Very, very good for you to get some damage amplification in certain circumstances, but overall, very, very good in comparison to some of these other gems out of B, F, and PvP only. So there you have it. There's the wizard, and there is all 6 classes. So let me know if you enjoyed. I again have all the timestamps in the description down below, so hopefully you all got to each one correctly. I'm going to make sure that Demon Hunter is fixed because last time it wasn't, and a lot of you were asking about Demon Hunter, but I did have it in the video, so I'm going to make sure that timestamps are fixed. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a sub, leave a like on the video. This one took me forever. It took about just an hour in pure recording, an hour and a half in pure recording, and it takes a little bit longer after that for editing and all that stuff. So really, really do appreciate it if you did enjoy, and I will see you in the next video.